Since I started my consulting company, two things started happening because they thought I had the network. I mean, the university promoters used to call me, tell me, I have this building, please fill this up in 6 months. I said, I don't have the students with me in my pocket. I mean, that's the wrong way of approaching whatever you think I am. I'm not that guy. The second thing started happening. A lot of edtech entrepreneurs started reaching out to me and saying, "Oh, you have so many schools, such a big market, and we had all the big, I mean, those stories, edtech stories happening post pandemic. I mean, it was a big boom, and they said the market is big. So many schools. You see the adoption of technology. Now everybody is talking about technology, and India is the next growth landscape." And I was like, no, but I know my schools. That's one thing I have done for many years now. I know the schools. I love them, but they are dinosaurs. They take their time in moving, right? Any brilliant idea to bring to a school, it takes time. And same is the case for universities. When I go to universities, I know how hard it is to get through to the right people in that system to learn and understand what you're trying to build, like to resonate with that passion and energy. वो नहीं होता है क्योंकि सब लोग कंफर्ट जोन में हैं और एजुकेशन तो अपने ही वी आर बिल्डिंग इन आवर ओन कंफर्ट जोन. So first of all, I want to let's give them a round of applause for bringing them, for moving the needle and persistently doing it day in and day out. They have not been here for a couple of years. They have been here at it for decades now. So, I want to bring in my panel now. Ayush Bansal, I mean, iDreamCareer is an amazing platform that you have built. And I know Ayush from the days when he was building it. He worked for years and years with government schools. You went to those schools which nobody was thinking about. You started there, and then now we built. So their journey is beautiful. Last 10 years, I mean, I've been following his work. Amazing work, Ayush. And I think perfect panel for me to give to you and for you to accept us to be here. An honor. Why don't you speak about your work at IDC and the subject we have at hand?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you and thanks, Ankur. Thanks, Master Union, for having me here. So great to be here in this great panel. So it's been a long journey for me personally, and the journey of building IDC. Right. So almost touching 13 years now as full-time entrepreneur. Before that, also it took about 4-5 odd years to hit the college time. While I was listening to a lot of students here. From Master Union, I mean, I could relate to the same story way back when I was in my college. The journey of IDC for me started when I was in college. I was lead pilots in college, right, in my undergraduate and my masters. And then when I moved out, went to Jagriti Yatra, Ankur would know me. I think briefly met the Jagriti Yatra events as well in Visakhapatnam. Yes. So I could resonate with the energy over here. But I think one of the, obviously, first of all, totally acknowledging the fact that it's pretty hard building anything in the education space. And if it's India, it's much more harder. And from the point of continuing for a long time, I think one of the aspect of, which I feel that what kept me going was not just passion and energy, which Ankur said as well, the two important, kind of elements, but I think the purpose. If as an individual you have a purpose behind the problem that you're solving, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, I think then only you can continue for that long, right? So I have seen days or years, I think 4 or 5 odd years. I mean, nowadays people come and say, you are in such a great time, policy shift is happening. Indian government is making career counseling mandatory. You are sitting at the right moment, the right time. I said, I'm sitting here for 14 years, right? So, so it take a lot of patience. But
overtime success.
Yeah, it is the and it's a purpose only, I think, that can get you for continue, for that long. If it's money, if it's just increasing and doing, multiple evaluation and exiting, I think you can't continue for 14 odd years. And I think the second big piece, if going back to the main theme of the panel, is around the fact that at the center of everything that you do has to be the student, right? And if student is at the center of the outcomes that you're building, and that outcome creation in education space take more time, right? As we all know, I mean, all of us be in this space, we know it takes years and years, right? So once you spend about 6, 7, 8 odd years, then you start seeing the outcome at a student level. And that is where the schools and the market and the industry start recognizing you and start valuing you. And that is a period. Look, that is where the time goes in. I know, I mean, as you probably said, schools are dinosaur. It's definitely tough to get schools buy-in, but at the same time, it takes a lot of time to create outcome in education. Yeah, and you need to have the patience to be able to see the outcome. Once you have built the outcome, you will see buy-in from school. You will be see buy-in from government. You will see buy-in from every stakeholder. So I'll take a pause.
Absolutely.
From this thought and.
Yeah, thank you. I think purpose is very important. Thank you for bringing that into. I forgot about that. And purpose. I mean, if you are an entrepreneur, I think money cannot be the only motivation. Absolutely correct. And especially in education, I think you mentioned it. You have to have a purpose, and then student has to be in the center. But I go back. This is my anecdote. I mean, I headed a edtech company during the poor times. I mean, and headed their business. And they have a wonderful product, and we thought, the students should start using it right away. And we implemented in all the top schools, but the students didn't use it. And the usage was really down. And the company was burning cash. And they said, we don't have 4 or 5 years for students to even start using it. And I'm like, yes, you're right. I mean, the way I see the balance sheet, we are not going to last that long. I mean, you thought it's a long runway, but it is not. The plane has to take off, otherwise we are going to crash. And actually, the company had to lay off. And we had to wind up operations, so we were focused on students and then come back. So I think what we are seeing right now, and I think one of the previous speakers alluded to it, education now is also now being driven by profit and loss and PE and ventures and investment and, exits. Those are driving the factor. And that's the model I want, because you have a long-term model, I know that. I mean, you are here for the long run. But then there are people who want to build business and exit 10 years, and that's the success I want to do. And I have a lot of friends who want to do nothing wrong with that. That's their purpose. But then they look at education and they're like, okay, with a 5 to 10 years period, I will exit this business, and this is a potential that I have. So, Rishi, now coming to you, I mean, the work that you are doing at Big Red Group is amazing. I mean, we have partnered with Masters Union with you, and I think you are doing some phenomenal work yourself for many years now. Why don't you speak about what you are trying to build and what is your journey like?
Firstly, good evening to everyone. Hopefully, you're all still awake. What I can see, most of you are. And thank you, Ankur, Masters Union, for having us here. Number one, of course, it's tough. I think the main question, why is education tough? Because this is the only product that we're selling, I feel, where the user, the beneficiary, and the one who's paying are 3 different people a lot of times and have 3 different objectives. So I don't really agree at all as to what those objectives should be. So I think that's number one reason why I feel it's tough. Second reason why it takes time. It takes time because in India, specifically, education is sacred, right? So in any sacred organization, change takes a lot of time. So I feel that's there. Given my journey, I think very different from coming from a government, sort of, the business that I'm hear from you. My love and, my dad's in textiles. The reason I got into education was I got this boarding school I went to after Mayo College. I went to this boarding school called Phillips Academy on a full ride. This is where George Bush's, Mark Zuckerberg went, and they handed me a notebook, course book, and said, study what you want. So I took sports philosophy, African drumming, different courses, and I loved it. I fell in love with the inquisitive nature of education, and that really was the dream. To come back, definitely very targeted around, let's get the top universities, professors to come down to India, because when I went to Harvard for the first time for a summer camp, it really opened up my eyes and thought, why are people going there? Why not bring professors here? So I was in a very elite space, only working with IB schools. But I always tell this to students, all the entrepreneurs that work with us, is that if you're trying to solve for everyone, you're not solving for anyone.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand the thing that I'm trying to solve and really working with that passion. And now I think with the booming, what's happening in the US, what's happening in India, similarly, the consortium I had for professors abroad, and getting them to Asia and Middle East. Now we're trying to build, having similar cohort for, IIM, IIT professors.
Wonderful.
And doing the same thing and building on that. So I think that's where we are, and I think those are my main 2 points.
I mean, if you can talk about big great education and the work that it does, just
Yeah, but very simple. What we try to do is there are a lot of different programming. I know schools in the end want leadership and entrepreneurship from us, but the idea really for me was, listen, can we have a consortium of professors who can really teach everything and anything that schools are not able to? So we have also run programs on poetry. We have done something with Deakin University, and not really harping on the Harvard or whatever Stanford name, but really looking at Deakin University for sports. So we run a business of sports program with Rajasthan Royals. We run something called poetry program with Poetry in America with Arizona State University. So things like that, and a lot of them work really well in an in-person setting. High impact,
niche programs.
Yeah, niche programs. During
both
summer.
online and offline.
Mostly offline, because during COVID, it was really booming, the online space, but then parents, of course, really want that presence of our professors here.
Thank you. Kalpesh, over to you. Yeah, we recently had a podcast where we discussed a lot about your own work. But I want to talk about Kalpesh. Kalpesh does leadership hiring. EduShine Search Partners is his company. He's been doing it for 15 years and more, and working with a lot of universities, and especially a lot of foreign universities now that are coming to India. Has worked with Masters Union, is working with Masters Union in for searching big talent for us. But Kalpesh's own journey of EduShine Search Partners is also has also not been easy. Recently, he told me they waited for ISB Hyderabad for an year or more than a year, and they worked for them without any revenue in the first few roles. So it was inspiring that he believed, and he is himself very, very qualified guy. I mean, University Business School, Chandigarh, and MBA, but he believed in education, and he had the right reasons to do so, and he has spent more than a decade and a half now. So Kalpesh, your own journey.
Thank you, Ankur and Masters Union for inviting over here. Generally, if you look at education sector, it looks like a perfect playground for startups. It looks like a huge market, fast growing, and emotionally attached sector as well. But to be honest, based on my experience, I can say education is not a market itself. Education is first an institution, and then it is a market. Many people ask me why it is difficult to get clients on board. Because it's not because the decision making is long. It's not because the sales cycle is long. The decision making is political. Unlike corporate, the decisions are taken by just one or two key members. In education system, in education institutions, there are multiple bodies. Education decision making is democratized. There is a student, or there is one promoter, or the principal, or in case of university vice chancellor, then there are faculty bodies, there are multiple board members who will be part of the decision making. So that's why it's important to navigate the political system within the institution rather than just looking at it in terms of a sales cycle. Further, mostly education sector and education business is not about sales. It is about building trust. Uh, Once you build trust, then there is huge upside. Most of the startup founders, they look at a hockey stick curve when they start in education sector. Whereas in education sector, trust first builds. You have to first build the trust and then you can go in terms of your revenue. When it comes to doing business with large institutions, you have to work with them rather than creating solutions or doing business for or creating solutions for institutions. It is important to work with them and create solution for them within rather than just creating a solution and selling them. So few pointers here I would like to say. Education is absolutely about brand. You have to pick up a right brand as your first client. Then only you will be able to create larger sales channel. Second, you have to first work with the institution, identify one problem area, and go deeper down into it, create real solution before moving to solving many other problems. I generally say this: education sector gives so many opportunities, and the perfect recipe for failure is to focusing on more than one opportunity. If you focus on more than one opportunity within education sector, it's for sure that you are going to fail. Each and every opportunity is so big, then you can create really huge business out of it. Then coming to uh, building brand within education sector, you have to look at it from the institution point of view. Institutions, yes, rightly Ankur said, they are like dinosaurs, they take their own time in terms of decision making. But we have to understand the risk and reward asymmetry. Most of the institutions have been created over the years. They are not rewarded for taking quick decisions. They are not rewarded for taking risk. They are being rewarded for sticking to their legacy. They are being rewarded for doing things in the same way over the years. And that's why if you look at most of the institutions, whether they are schools or universities, there are certain rituals, and till the time you don't understand what the institution stands for, it's next to impossible to create value for them. Faculties, if I look at higher education, they are being rewarded for research. They are not being rewarded for just quick outcome. And at the same time, if you look at risk, if the fintech startup fails, the refund will be given to the customers. But if something in education sector fails, in that case, students will lose their years. Why the institution will take that kind of risky decision? So we need to understand these aspects. And when we start something in education sector, we have to understand one thing clearly, that this sector is not for venture capitalists, because they look at 3 to 5 years return, whereas this sector's gestation period is at least 5 to 10 years. You cannot build business in education for anything less than 5 to 10 years. Most of the startups in education sector lose their credibility first, and then it comes to their balance sheet. So first, if you want to build education sector startup, the most important thing is to build credibility, work with the institution, go deeper, solve one problem, and then move on to scaling up, rather than just looking at working in a silo and saying that this is a problem Indian education system is facing, and let's solve it. For that, create a problem and then work on it. I feel even if it's a product-based startup, in education sector, everything is consulting based. You have to work very closely with the institution to understand the real pain and then solve it, even if it is a product.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Kalpesh, for bringing that insightful perspective and experience to the panel. Appreciate it.